Last time on Four Nights of the Apocalypse, Escanor humiliated the entirety of the main cast, and he was just an illusion made by Merlin's sacred treasure and the power of chaos that didn't even compare to the real Escanor. Showcasing that the Four Knights might not be as strong as we thought they were, and it is just funny to see Lancelot not overwhelm an opponent for the first real time in a while, outside of that one surprise hit from Galahad. But now Merlin has revealed herself and is going to take the Four Knights to meet the real King Arthur, and essentially fully explain basically how the entire series got started in the first place. So we're going to dive into all that right here, right now. But before all that, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Helps and shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Sorry about not doing that bonus Escanor video between chapters. I had a lot that just happened all of a sudden, so I wasn't able to record and do a video on that. Apologies. But I am going to try and be a lot more consistent with the post-chapter videos. Also, if you want to see more of me outside this channel and see what else I do, and go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about comic books and comic book-based movies and TV shows now, apparently, because I've made multiple videos on the most recent stuff with the Green Lantern TV show and the new Spider-Man movie. So, let's see what happens with that one. It's a passion project, and I really appreciate it if you guys go check it out whenever you get the chance. Link will be in the description down below and in the title card. Now then, on to Chapter 238 of Four Nights of the Apocalypse, titled The King of Resolve. Before we get to the actual cover image, at the very top of this page, it is a, let's just say a suicide attempt warning and suicidal ideation warning at the very top of the chapter. So you can kind of tell what subject matter might be at least alluded to or maybe even shown in this chapter. But in all seriousness, if any of you are having any of these thoughts or feelings, use the hotline that is provided from the chapter and the website. You're not alone, and there's always help. So the actual chapter starts off with the cover image of Merlin looking up at her daughter Gawain in her buff form, as with the snap of her fingers, the room around them ends up twisting and turning into a giant typhoon, as we see it transform into what looks like a giant courtyard leading into what I'm going to describe as a Rubik's Cube-like tower made completely out of cubes, as Merlin ends up asking them to follow her, with Gawain turning back to normal as they start following her towards the tower, with them wondering what exactly the truth that she is basically going to tell them about is. But Lancelot mentions something that I've had a lot of comments on at the end from the last chapter, about the fact that, is this the real Merlin? As he brings this up, asking, I seem to recall some serious burn marks around your lips in the memories Gother showed us when we were kids. Obviously, Lancelot and Tristan got these memories on their birthdays when I believe they turned about 10 years old. So yeah, they know about the burn marks of Merlin and know what Merlin looks like. And that is something that people were wondering about. Was this like a error? Did Nakaba forget to draw the burn marks on Merlin's face? Or is this some big illusion? It's not the real Merlin that's greeting them at the entrance. So we got confirmation now that Merlin ends up saying, oh no, I still have those, but my lord chided me over showing them. Because is it really right to show off those hickeys to your own daughter? And I'm like, I guess that's being conscientious, because if you tell your kid, yeah, I got these burn marks from kissing your dad the first time, that would be kind of awkward, and Gawain even says, oh yeah, glad I wasn't sure how I'd react to that, with Percival saying, what's a hickey? And Tristan, knowing exactly what everyone's talking about, is like, just ask your wives about it, man, come on. Personally, I wish he still kept those burn scars. I think a lot of us would, even if it is just like a temporary illusion type thing, in order to have a better first meeting essentially with your kid face to face in the first time since she was born. But it does kind of feel like it kind of cheapens, the whole sacrifice and final moments of Escanor to an extent. But then again, that's just me. And I know Arthur probably still has his feelings for Merlin, but if it's the first time he's mentioning, hey, you should probably get rid of those burn scars, how would you explain that to your kid? He is being conscientious to a degree and thinks that he's probably helping, I guess. But enough about the burn scar discussion. They all begin to walk towards the tower as Lancelot ends up thinking, wait, my lord? And as they're walking into the tower and getting towards a wall, Gawain sheepishly tries to grab her mother's hand, and as Merlin ends up opening up the tower as it crumbles up in cubes, Gawain sheepishly kind of like gets her hands back as she is embarrassed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm liking how Gawain's being just like incredibly adorable and shy when it comes to meeting her parents for the first time. Obviously meeting her mother for the very first time face to face, and obviously being Merlin of the Seven Deadly Sins, she wants that actual like familial connection that she probably was missing even with her adoptive father. And the fact this is her mother that she's meeting for the first time, it's a nice bit of subtle character acting that I do always appreciate. But the room then begins to collapse as everyone's wondering what's inside this tower. As we see a foot, and in a double-page spread, one half of the room being completely shadowed in black, and the left being highly detailed cubes, within the shadow being Merlin and the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and in the light, Arthur Pendragon, the real Arthur Pendragon, as now they all meet face to face. And I love this image, it is so cool. The Four Knights in a black void, and Arthur, the person with the power of creation, is in like a room that is like more like regal and you could say like abstract. It is really nice visual storytelling. I love it. It is probably one of my favorite panel of this entire chapter. It's honestly great, and it's a very less is more type of way when it comes to drawing something. But Merlin then walks up casually next to Arthur and introduces him as her master, the King of Camelot. Lancelot gets zoned in, Tristan and Percival are utterly shocked, and Gawain's shocked expression is more comedic, like what the hell is going on right now? As we get a full page as she fully introduces Arthur Pendragon. And this is our second look at the current adult Arthur. He does still look a bit malnourished, but he got those stubbles shaved, he got his hair cut to have his classic look, obviously to meet the Four Knights and Merlin's daughter, to look a lot more presentable. And while I do wish he still had the long hair, I think it would have been really cool if Arthur pulled up in a fight against Kath, or to test the Four Knights, still like with that long ass hair. I think that would look sick as hell. But we gotta go back to the original King Arthur design, I guess, for consistency's sake. But at least he still looks a lot older. But after revealing him, Lancelot wastes no time and goes over to try and stab him in the chest, all like Viltrumite style from Invincible, and basically a callback to when he fought Kath in Leonis, and that's the signature move he did to stab him through the chest to try and kill him when he was distracted. But it was just a clone as he teleported away. But before Lancelot can even land this blow, him and Arthur's eyes meet, and he stops halfway, with Arthur not even flinching, with Tristan and Percival going to try and support Lancelot, telling him to get out of the way, but Lancelot shouts at them saying it's not him, confusing everyone wondering what Lancelot means. Lancelot goes on to say that he's a wholly different man from the Arthur we know well, with Tristan noticing, wait, you mean he's a different man? You mean he's a fake? With Lancelot saying, assuming the Arthur we know is the real one, as they're wondering what's going on, and then they begin to piece it together that this is the real King Arthur. And again, I like that through this action, this short bit of action, we see that Lancelot was fully ready to kill Arthur upon meeting, and I am glad that this is the reaction, because the Four Knights did not know that they were meeting the real Arthur Pendragon. They got notified that it seemed like the Arthur they were fighting originally was just Kath pretending to be him, and they fought the sins in Leonis recently. But they had no idea that Merlin was keeping the real Arthur safe. They had no idea that they were meeting Arthur Pendragon, and so the reaction of Lancelot, Tristan, and Percival going in to kill him right off the bat and fight him makes complete and total sense. Gawain was obviously stopped by like sheer shock, but maybe it was also the fact that her mother was there, maybe she didn't want to like lash out. Or maybe she was getting ready to mobilize, but just didn't draw her in the panel. Either way, their eyes meet, and obviously Lancelot read his mind, read his heart, and noticed immediately that this wasn't the Arthur that they've known, and so he stops himself from, dealing a lethal blow. Arthur probably would have recovered from it anyway, due to whatever power of chaos he still has left in him, but it is a nice touch, and it shows that there is animosity towards Arthur, even though it wasn't the real Arthur they were fighting. But Arthur, very much in defeat, just says, "The real king? Don't make me laugh. What you see is a powerless man, one who lost his nation, his people, who couldn't reach out to them in their time of greatest sadness and pain." Percival sheathes his sword looking at Gawain, as Tristan asks for an explanation as to what's going on. With Merlin beginning the story, explaining how everything began 18 years ago at the end of the Holy War. Now, I'm going to get into this in a second because it's basically just a big recap of Arthur's revival in the final Chaos arc of Seven Deadly Sins and what led into this season. But I will have to say this, I do kind of like how Arthur literally looks just utterly defeated. He couldn't save his nation or his people. At the end of Cursed by Light, it was a mass grave of thousands if not millions of people that he could not save because he let himself get killed by Cusack, and when he was revived, he basically barely had a kingdom and people to, help. And then we have Cath basically being trying to gain control over his power and being split, and him taking over Camelot and doing all these horrific things and manipulating the people around him. Arthur was basically technically sealed away for all that time. That's definitely got to be getting to him as he views himself as worthless now. And I feel like we're going to have to get to a real character arc for Arthur to get back into being the hero that he was in Seven Deadly Sins, and the hopeful, optimistic person that he will be. He might not be the exact same, but I do think we're going to have to reach that point. But yeah, Merlin goes on to explain how 3,000 years ago that she researched Chaos, the creator of the infinite unknown, to satisfy her curiosity and thirst that was in her heart. Obviously because she had feelings for Meliodas that were unrequited, and he went with Elizabeth. And so, again, I still hate that reasoning, but whatever. She then says that after satisfying all the conditions, she succeeded in reviving Chaos, placing it into Arthur as a vessel, as that's when everything began. As everyone looks over towards Merlin, Lancelot obviously pissed, and Arthur just telling everyone not to blame Merlin, not to get the wrong idea. She only did this because she thought she could control the power of Chaos and to create a world with it, a brand new world. But then, that was when Cath showed up, the incarnation of evil given to life by Chaos itself in the primordial times of Britannia. He followed Arthur around, posing as a harmless figure, but once he learned Arthur's chaotic force, he had masked himself and attacked. And Tristan says, "Wait, I heard this story from Gother." And then Merlin says that she worked with Seven Deadly Sins to hold him back, and in the time, Arthur banished him to within his own body. And that's what we all knew about, and we now get full-on confirmation as to what happened, as Arthur says, sealing Cath within him was the worst mistake he could have made, as it is fully revealed that Cath, with his fearsome vitality and speed, started to absorb chaos from within Arthur, and it even ate away into his very personality. And the second Merlin started to realize something was up with Arthur and then noticed that Cath was eating away at his power, she separated him, but by that point, Cath had already absorbed most of Arthur's power of chaos, and so she had to isolate Arthur in a space and watch Cath's whole movements from the shadows for 18 years. And if Cath ever sees the remaining power of chaos, he would be complete, and it would be the end of the world for good. Obviously, Tristan mentions, wait, his dad was fighting Cath just a second ago in Leonis, and Percival realizes how they could beat someone that's supposed to be that powerful. Now, I'm going to stop here before jumping back into the chapter, because there's more good stuff to talk about in a second. But I do want to lay into the fact that Cath was still conscious within Arthur, and the fact that he was eating away at his personality. And that actually might make sense as to why Cath was so good at impersonating Arthur and took Arthur's form, and knew many things that Arthur would as well. If Cath was basically sealed within him and started eating away at Arthur completely, he would begin to get not only his power, but his knowledge, his mannerisms, and that's how he basically made the perfect Khan. I actually really do like that. And it does tie into how many of us had the theory that Cath was probably manipulating Arthur from within, altering his personality. While again, I would have really loved that Cath wouldn't be the actual person to be the villain, but he essentially created a splinter personality with Arthur, showcasing chaos corrupting his ideals and something like that, and it would have been something else. Either way, this is a nice explanation and shows that what Arthur did at the end of Seven Deadly Sins was basically reckless as hell, but was also their best option at the time. I can't fully blame Arthur for Cath gaining all this power, because at the time, they didn't fully comprehend the power of chaos or knew how to basically fight it, and Arthur didn't even really know how to fully control it or use it at that point, even with a fully awakened Excalibur. So the best option he had was to devour and seal Arthur within himself. But obviously Arthur probably wasn't strong enough at the time, mentally, physically, or magically, to keep Cath's personality completely suppressed 24/7, and that's why Cath just began to take root within him and start to corrupt and try to take over his body. Merlin separating him was honestly a good idea. Unfortunately, Cath was already too late. My main issue with this, honestly, and I'm probably going to have to speedrun this because I don't want this video to be too long, is the fact that this pretty much happened shortly after Cursed by Light. This was 18 years, the full 18 years after Cath's imprisonment, after the Cursed by Light movie. All that time period after the end of Seven Deadly Sins up until the beginning of Four Knights of the Apocalypse and, well, now to the time skip, that was how long Cath was in control of Camelot. Arthur was basically in stasis since pretty much the end of Seven Deadly Sins. That is annoying to me, because I would have loved it if, for a couple of years, Arthur built Camelot, the dimension of Camelot. We're bringing people that were lost their family and loved ones to Camelot to give them a place to thrive and live safely. But have Cath slowly corrupt him and then lead us into the separation and the reveal that Cath was still conscious than Arthur. I think that would have been a lot better, because Arthur would have had a lot more to do with the creation of Camelot and his knights and his order, and then Cath quickly, or at least slowly, corrupting everything until Merlin had to separate him from Arthur and basically dip for a good number of years. Making it the full 18 years after the end of Seven Deadly Sins basically strips Arthur of any agency and development he would have had in those 18 years, because he's basically not really a character in that time period, and he did nothing for his kingdom. Granted, I do think that does play into the fact that, Arthur feels like he's accomplished nothing and isn't a real king. I will fully admit to that. But it being the whole 18 years just annoys the hell out of me. Mini rant over, let's go right back into the chapter, as when they're talking about how Cath could destroy the world if he acquired the rest of Arthur's chaos, obviously a Chekhov's gun that could happen in the future. Lancelot says, the end of the world for good? Don't give me that crap, as he goes off on Arthur and Merlin, saying how all this is all their fault for unleashing a power they could barely even comprehend, and then you say you can't control it? Every single part of this mess is the result of the things you made happen. Don't you see how many humans got hurt thanks to that fake King Arthur? To say nothing of the other clans and races of the world. The Seven Deadly Sins didn't fight just to clean up your damn mistakes, and neither did we. As Merlin and Arthur obviously know this, but Percival and Gawain and Tristan tried to get Lancelot to calm down. Obviously Gawain for her mother's sake, but Lancelot also goes off on Tristan saying, oh really? Could you say that to Jade if he were here? Could you now, Tristan? Really hitting it home. Now obviously Lancelot doesn't have any close relationship to Jade at all, but Tristan lost one of his best friends, one of his childhood best friends, because of the fight with King Arthur, because of the assassins that Cath sent. That is a direct correlation, and yeah, they suffered. They all kind of suffered and had all these types of trials and tribulations because of the decision that Merlin made and because Arthur could not control it. Obviously, I feel like Lancelot shouldn't be going off on Arthur. This is 100% Merlin's fault. She's the one that started all the sequence of events to the revival of chaos and groomed Arthur to be the king of chaos and have that power within him, most likely before he was even fully ready at that point. But even then, yeah, it's all Merlin's fault if you really think about it, not Arthur's. He was just thrown into a bad situation. But Arthur is ready to take responsibility, saying, you're right, of course. I could apologize all day to you, and it'd do nothing to atone for my people's pain or fulfill my duty. Arthur grabs a knife from his waist, turns it around onto himself into the shock of the four knights. He stabs himself in the heart, in the middle of the chest, as blood gushes forward, ending the chapter. Now, again, this was a good chapter overall. I did have my complaints with the whole 18-year thing with Kath and being the one that was in charge of Camelot and stuff like that, and not Arthur for a good bit of it. But that all aside, this was a good chapter. I like the four knights meeting with Arthur. I like the symbolism when they get into his room. I do like that Lancelot goes off on Merlin, especially, for just unleashing a power she did not understand, and it just going completely badly for everybody. Arthur having this immense guilt over everything because he wasn't ready and wasn't strong enough at the time to do anything about it. This chapter overall was honestly good, and we have the Chekhov's gun of Kath finding Arthur in order to get the full power of chaos. I'm not gonna lie, that's definitely gonna happen at some point because Kath knows Merlin's magic signature now, so he can sniff her out in Camelot once he's back and once he's recovered, so like that could definitely happen. Either way, solid chapter, I enjoyed it, and it does set stuff up for the future. What Arthur is doing right now, I'm not sure. This is probably just his like physical sense of atonement, or at least to show how badly he like feels awful about all the sequence of events that have occurred over the last 18 years and being able to do nothing about it, and him constantly growing weaker seemingly. What all this could fully mean, and if it's just physical, just symbolism and stuff like that, I have no idea. It could result in something else. Who really knows? But that's what next chapter is for, so we're gonna have to wait till next week to really understand a lot more of things. So let me know your thoughts, opinions, and theories of after everything from this chapter and what could happen going forward in the comments section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy it and make it here on the channel. It shows you want to see more. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.